Chapter 10. Ants. That was Cassie's brilliant idea. Ants. See, ants could get into Chapman's basement, and ants could carry away the small transponder. Ants. This is what my life had come to. We ended up spending a couple of hours debating whether we should be red ants or black ants. I finally left in disgust. I didn't want to be an ant, black, red, or any other color. I saw Jake the next day in school. I had just come out of history class, where I had blown a pop quiz. I wasn't in the best mood. I was opening my locker and muttering about the Mexican-American War and how was anyone supposed to remember the difference between that war and the Texas War of Independence. "Hi," Jake said. "The answer is black. Turns out most of the ants near Chapman's house are black." Tobias checked it out. I looked over Jake's shoulder to make sure no one was close enough to overhear. "Jake, I don't want to be a bug. I've been a gorilla, an osprey, a dolphin, a seagull, a trout, of all things, a lobster. And I am probably forgetting a few. Gorilla was fun. Dolphin was fun. Osprey was fun. Ant, not fun. Basically, bugs are a bad idea." Jake shrugged. "I was a flea. That was no big thing." He grinned like he'd made the world's funniest joke. Seriously, it was like nothing. I couldn't see anything. I could barely hear anything, just vibrations. All I knew was that I liked warm bodies, and whenever I got hungry, I just poked a hole in some warm skin and sucked blood. He looked a little uncomfortable. "Well, it was Rachel's blood, kind of. I mean, okay, it was cat blood, but Rachel was morphing the cat." "Jake, do you ever listen to yourself?" "I try not to think about it," he admitted. "But look, we want to try and give Axe a chance to get home. And if he stays here, he's a danger to us. We've got this big He looked around to make sure no one could hear and lowered his voice. "We have this big Andalite running around Cassie's farm. What if someone sees him? Any controller is going to know what he is, and they're going to wonder why he's on Cassie's land." I nodded. "Yeah, you're right. But I almost died the other day. I was almost boiled alive. I know you're the big hero type, Jake, but I'm not." I grabbed my book out of the locker, slammed the door, and headed down the hall. Jake kept pace. "You know what next Sunday is?" I asked him suddenly. I didn't plan to say anything. "Sunday? I don't know. What?" 2 years, to the day. 2 years since my mom died. And I don't know what to do. I don't know whether I should, talk to my dad about it or just let it pass. But I know one thing. This would be a really bad week for me to turn up dead. I kept walking. He didn't follow me. 2 years. She'd taken the boat out of the marina. She sailed it out into a rough sea. No one knew why. She'd never done it before. We'd always gone out together, the three of us. That night, after the high winds had blown past, they found the boat driven up in the rocks. The hull was shattered. There was no sign of my mother, except for a frayed safety rope. They never found her body. The Coast Guard says that was not unusual. The ocean is just a big place. "So is space," a voice in my head said. Somewhere, very, very far away, her mother and father wondered what had become of their children. For a long time, I made up stories about how my mom had survived. Maybe on a desert island or something. But I'm a realistic person, I guess. After a while, I just accepted it. And after a while, Axe's parents would accept that he and his brother, Prince Alfangor, would not be returning. That they had been lost forever in space. Lost fighting to protect Earth. To help the human race. To help me. I spotted Cassie up ahead, walking with some of her friends. She smiled vaguely when she saw me. We were supposed to be kind of ignoring each other in school, so no one ever figured out that Jake and Cassie and me and Rachel were hanging out a lot. As I brushed past her, I muttered, "Tell Jake I'll do it." Sometimes I really hate having a conscience. Chapter 11. "I wonder why these people moved," Cassie said. "Maybe they didn't like living next door to a controller who was part of a conspiracy to take over the world. Or else maybe they just don't like assistant principals. I can understand that." We were standing in the backyard of the house next to Chapman's. It was empty. There was a for sale sign in the front yard. It did make you kind of wonder why these people had decided to move. Not that Chapman ever acted strange. That was the big problem with controllers. You can never tell who is or who isn't. It's convenient for us anyway, Jake said. It was night. The moon was high and full and bright, so we were hidden beneath a tree. There was a high wooden fence between us and Chapman's. Axe was just changing from his human morph back to his andalite body. We had already acquired some ants earlier at Cassie's barn. We were getting ready to do it. I was scared. Badly scared. I guess the others were too. Everyone was talking too much, the way you do when you're nervous. Cassie was shivering like she was cold, only it was about 70 degrees out. Tobias? I asked. He was in the tree, just a few inches over my head on a low branch. How well can you see? I think I'll be able to see you as long as you stay above ground, he said. The moonlight helps. But I'm not nearly as good at night as I am during the day. My eyes aren't much better than yours in the dark. Swell, I said. Jake glanced at his watch. It's time. We know Chapman will be at the meeting of the sharing, starting about now. The sharing is a front organization for the controllers. It's a way for controllers to get together without anyone being suspicious. Supposedly, it's just sort of a combined Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. In reality, it's a way for controllers to recruit willing hosts. Yes, believe it or not, some people choose to accept your control. We didn't have to ask how Jake knew about the meeting of the sharing. Jake's brother, Tom, is one of them. A controller who was very into the sharing. You ready, Axe? Jake asked. The Andalite had to be back in Andalite form before you could morph, just like all of us had to be in human before morphing into another human being, or into another being. Once Cassie had tried morphing straight from one animal to another, nothing had happened, and Cassie's the best morpher. I am ready, Axe said. Everyone ready? Jake asked. Yep, Rachel said. Even she sounded tense. There was a bad feeling hanging over this whole thing. Or maybe I was just being paranoid. Okay, Jake said. As soon as we're all morphed, we head across the grass down along the wall underground. We find a crack or a hole and enter the basement. Yeah, nothing to it, I said. I concentrated on the ant I had acquired earlier. There wasn't much to think about, really. When I'd held the ant in my hand, it had just been this tiny little dot. You could see that it had a section body and legs, but that was about it. The morphing began very quickly. Whoa! Falling! That was the first sensation. I was shrinking rapidly. The ground was rushing up at me. It was like one of those nightmares where you're falling and falling, but never seem to hit the ground. I was still maybe a foot tall when my skin seemed to turn crisp, as if it had been burned. It became hard, harder than fingernails and glossy black. I looked over at Cassie and nearly screamed. She was farther along than me, only a foot tall and hard-shelled black all over, glistening, rigid, plastic-looking skin. Her legs were shriveling rapidly. So were her arms, although they had become longer to match her legs. The third set of legs was growing out of her chest, and her face. Her face was no longer human. Her head was sort of teardrop-shaped. Wickedly curved mandibles were growing out of her mouth. Huge, slashing, deadly-looking serrated jaws. Her eyes had gone flat and dead, just black dots. Antennae, looking almost like another set of legs, sprouted from her forehead. Her waist was pinched tight. Her lower body swelled till it looked as big as a watermelon. I didn't want to watch, because I knew all these same changes were happening to me. I knew it. I didn't want to think about it. I just wanted it to be over. I wanted the changes to be done. Suddenly, all around me, huge, raspy spears shot up out of the ground. Grasp! It was grass. I was diminishing to true insect size. The rough, sharp shafts that were rising all around me were just blades of grass. They weren't growing. I was shrinking. One exploded directly under me. I tumbled, end over end. And then my eyesight failed. My eyes simply stopped functioning. I was blind. Blind and falling, rolling, cartwheeling down the side of a blade of grass. Chapter 12. I was standing upright. I knew that. I had stopped falling. But I was blind. No, not completely blind. It was not just blackness. But my eyes saw no detail. I could see patches of light and areas of darkness, but they were misty and fragmented, and my ant brain was not interested in them. No, the world was not about sight anymore. It was all something else. I knew I was getting something, a sense, a feeling almost. Then I could feel my antenna waving back and forth, searching. No, they were smelling. My antennas were smelling. I was looking for a scent, several scents. It was not like human smell, not like Jake had described dog scent when he'd morphed into his dog Homer. That kind of scent is full of possibilities, subtleties. This was different. I was just looking for a few scents, just a few smells. I tried to prepare myself. I had been through this before. There's usually a time, a brief few seconds, before the animal mind appears with all its fear and hunger and intensity. I needed to be prepared. Ants were tiny and weak. Surely their fear would be extreme. It would have to be, then wham! The ant's mind erupted inside of my own. There was no fear, none. There was no hunger. There was no self, no me. No. My antenna swept the air. Strange. Not home. Not the colony. Enemy territory. Smell them. Smell their droppings. Smell the acrid odors they smeared along the ground to mark their boundaries. How are you guys doing? It's Tobias. How are you guys doing? Strangers. The smell of others. They would come. There would be killing. Killing soon. Move. Jake, Marco, Rachel, Cassie, answer me. It's Tobias. Talk to me. I began moving. My 6 legs picked their way nimbly. I was a nearly blind insect, picking his way through a forest of giant saw-edged grass blades. Food. The smell of food. Find it. Take it. Return to the colony with it. Change direction instantly. Move towards the smell of dead beetle. Others around. Us. Ours. They had the right smell. They were not enemy. You guys are heading the wrong way. Moving faster now. Feet feeling each blade of grass. Antennas sweeping the air, searching for the scent of the enemy. Searching for the scent of the dead carcass that we had to find and return to the colony. Listen to me. You guys are going the wrong way. The ant minds are controlling you. Close now. The scent of food was stronger. Mandibles working. We would touch the carcass. We would judge its size. If it was too heavy to carry, we would hack it into smaller pieces and carry the chunks to the colony. You have to take control. You have to fight. You have to get a grip. Our enemies would come and kill. The smell of enemies was everywhere. There. We had reached the dead beetle. I scented the air. I touched it with my legs, touching it again and again to learn the size. My legs? Confusion. Fight it! Fight it! You have to get control. It was big. The others were with me. I opened my cutting mandibles wide and bit into the beetle, slicing through tough shell, biting into meat. Listen to me. You are losing. You have to fight. Fight? Suddenly I realized that there had been something. A sound, yes. Not a smell. Not a smell. Not a feel. You are humans. You're humans. Listen to me. You are not ants. Fight it. Fight it. Yes. Not a smell or a feel in my head. Me, Marco. Yeah! I screamed inside my own head. Tobias said later that it was scared him half to death. He thought I was being killed. That wasn't it at all. I had been reborn. Ah! What's the matter? Tobias cried. I had lost myself, I said. I was gone. I was lost. I didn't even exist. Get out of that morph, Tobias said. But I could hear the others now, snapping back into reality, becoming again, crying. What kind of creatures are these? It was Axe. He sounded terrified. Terrified. They have no self. I was lost. There was nothing to hold on to. They are not whole. They are only parts, like cells, just pieces. What kind of foul creatures are these? Listen, you guys morph back, Tobias said. This sucks. This isn't right. Hive, Cassie said, sounding shattered. They're social insects, part of a colony, a hive. I should have guessed. I should have known. Max is right. Each of us is only a part, like a single cell within a human body. Guys, I see other ants. They're coming your way, Tobias said. How far away? Jake asked. Can you see them up there? I'm not in the tree. I'm right here. I'm standing right over you. You're only a few inches from my right talon. I don't want to have to do this all over, Rachel said. Let's do this. Let's get it done. Are we all in control now? Jake asked. One by one we said yes. But it was only partly true. Yes, I had gained control over my ant mind, but it was still there. It was powerful in a totally new way. It was the simplicity that made it hard. The ant was a piece of a computer, just a tiny switch, part of a much bigger creature, the colony. Guys, Cassie's voice in my head. If you try, you can kind of use these ant eyes, a little anyway. If you concentrate, you can notice light and dark. It's like watching a really, really bad black and white TV that's almost all snow. And you can only see what's right in front of you, but you can almost see a picture. She was right. I could kind of see, but nothing I saw made any sense, anyway. I could recognize blades of grass, but a long, sloped wall that seemed about 6 feet high was a mystery to me. Someone just ran over my talon, Tobias said. The wall. Tobias's talon. That's good. You're heading in the right direction, Tobias said. You're coming up on the fence. If there was a fence, you couldn't prove it to me. I saw nothing. The bottom of the fence was 7 or 8 body lengths above me. Irrelevant. I don't want to go into Chapman's yard, Tobias said. It would look fishy if anyone saw. Just keep going in the same direction. We did. I barreled through the forest of grass. Then, very suddenly, it ended. We were out of the grass and racing across a moonscape of boulders, each the size of my head. In my ant brain, the alarm bells were still ringing. Enemies! Enemies! Their scent was everywhere. But it was not fear I felt from the ant brain. It was not capable of emotion or anything like emotion. It simply knew that there were enemies close by. And it knew that it would come down sooner or later to kill or be killed.